the Feast of Saint Satiatus. Father Michael's fingers trembled as he traced the Latin text, centuries of dust cascading from the leather-bound tome. The woodcuts were crude but disturbing, masses of people with distended bellies, their faces twisted in what could have been either ecstasy or agony. At the center of each image stood a figure in priest's robes, hands raised in blessing over the grotesque congregation. Saint Satiatus, the manuscript named him, a miracle worker who could feed entire villages with seemingly endless bounty. But something about the saint's expression in the woodcuts made Father Michael's stomach clench. The eyes were too wide, the smile too broad, stretching litter to ear. The sound of chewing pulled his attention from the book. It was faint, barely audible above the autumn wind whistling through the church's ancient stonework. But it was there, a wet, persistent mastication coming from behind the basement wall. Father Michael pressed his ear against the cold stone, where a series of warnings had been carved in Latin centuries ago. Fames eterna, ni aperias, eternal hunger, do not open. The renovation crew had already begun removing this section of wall, revealing the edge of a sealed chamber. The contractors wouldn't return until morning, leaving Father Michael alone with his discovery, and that sound, crunch, slurp, swallow. He should have left it alone, should have sealed the tome, re-bricked the wall, and forgotten everything. Instead, he grabbed a crowbar. The ancient mortar crumbled easily, and the bricks fell away to reveal a small, dark chamber. The chewing sound stopped. Something shifted in the darkness. Then the hunger hit him. It wasn't the gentle reminder of a skipped lunch or the growl of an empty stomach. This was a void opening inside him, an all-consuming need that made his knees buckle. Father Michael stumbled backward, gasping as something invisible slithered past him into the church proper. The following days brought strange reports. Local restaurants called about customers who wouldn't stop eating, who continued shoving food into their mouths even as they vomited. People vanished from grocery stores. And his congregation, dear God, his congregation. They came to Sunday Mass as usual, but their eyes were glassy, their movements jerky. Some had bloody teeth from gnawing their own lips. During communion, Mrs. Patterson bit off 3 of her own fingers, trying to get to the host. Father Michael's research revealed the truth too late. Saint Satiatus had been no saint at all, but a heretic excommunicated for unspeakable rites. His miracles were acts of demonic possession, forcing people to consume their own flesh while believing they feasted on divine bounty. The entity fed not on the flesh itself, but on the endless act of consumption, and now it was loose again. The church basement became a charnel house. Dozens of his parishioners crowded the space, tearing at themselves and each other. The air was thick with the copper stench of blood and the sickly sweet odor of partially digested flesh. The sounds, dear God, the sounds. Chewing, always chewing. Traditional exorcism rites failed. Holy water sizzled and evaporated before it could touch the possessed. That's when Father Michael saw it fully for the first time, the true form of Saint Satiatus emerging from Mr. Stevens's distended throat. It was a writhing mass of mouths and digestive organs, eternally consuming itself only to regenerate and consume again. Understanding came with horrific clarity. The entity grew stronger with each act of consumption. It could only be weakened through starvation. Father Michael sealed the church doors, trapping himself inside with his infected flock. The hunger that had plagued him since opening the chamber intensified until his vision blurred. His own fingers looked like savory sausages, his forearm like a tender roast. Hours stretched into days. The sounds of feasting slowly died down, replaced by whimpers and then silence. Father Michael endured, fighting the overwhelming urge to join the feast. When the police finally broke down the doors, they found him surrounded by the self-consumed remains of his congregation. The chamber was sealed again, new warnings carved beside the old. The church was reconsecrated, and life slowly returned to normal. But late at night, Father Michael still hears phantom sounds of chewing. His fingers twitch toward his mouth unconsciously. And sometimes, catching his reflection in the communion chalice, he sees his smile stretching just a little too wide. In his dreams, he still feasts, and somewhere in the darkness, something is always chewing.